AITA for getting revenge on my toxic coworkers? My name is Claire, and for years I worked at a small marketing firm in the heart of the city. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. When I first joined, I was so excited. I loved the creativity, the challenge of juggling multiple campaigns, and the rush of pulling off last-minute presentations. Even better, I thought I had found real friends in my two coworkers, Jenna and Melissa. We bonded quickly in the beginning, grabbing coffee before work, venting about clients during lunch breaks, even going out for drinks on Fridays. I trusted them, really trusted them, like sisters I had chosen for myself. Back then, work felt like a second home. We were a tight-knit team, and I thought we all had each other's backs. But I learned the hard way how quickly people can change when ambition gets in the way. The first crack appeared when our manager, Mr. Patel, casually mentioned during a team meeting that he was considering promoting me to lead a big new project. I didn't even think much of it at the time. I just smiled politely and thanked him. But when I looked over at Jenna, she wasn't smiling. She had this tight, fixed expression that made my stomach turn. Melissa looked uncomfortable too, glancing between us nervously. At first, I brushed it off. I told myself maybe Jenna was just having a bad day, or maybe she wanted the promotion too and was just disappointed. I figured it would blow over. I couldn't have been more wrong. From that day on, things shifted. Jenna became cold toward me. She'd cut me off during meetings, dismiss my ideas with sarcastic little laughs, and whisper to Melissa the moment I left the room. Sometimes, when I'd walk back in, they'd abruptly stop talking and exchange guilty glances. I kept trying to be friendly, pretending not to notice, but the tension was thick enough to choke on. Then small, strange mistakes started showing up in my work. A file I'd saved would mysteriously disappear. Client details I knew were correct would somehow be wrong when the presentation was printed. At first, I blamed myself, thinking maybe I was just overworked, but it kept happening, too often to be a coincidence. It didn't take long to realize the truth. Jenna and Melissa were sabotaging me. The worst part was how subtle they were about it. They never did anything blatant. Instead, they planted seeds of doubt, and they didn't stop there. Almost every other day, Mr. Patel would call me into his office with a concerned frown. "Claire," he'd say, sighing deeply, "Jenna mentioned you've been missing deadlines. Melissa said you snapped at her in front of a client yesterday. Is everything okay?" None of it was true. I'd sit there, heart pounding, desperately trying to defend myself. "No, Mr. Patel, I didn't snap at anyone. I've been meeting every deadline." But it was always my word against theirs. They were his trusted employees too. The more they talked, the more I could see doubt creeping into his eyes. At the same time, two other people from the company left suddenly, one for a new job and another due to a family emergency. Their entire workload got dumped on me overnight. I went from handling my normal projects to juggling what felt like 3 full jobs. Meanwhile, Jenna and Melissa sat back, sipping coffee and smirking as they watched me drown. I barely slept. My apartment became a mess. I stopped cooking, stopped exercising, even stopped brushing my hair most mornings. I'd stagger into work looking like a shadow of myself, dark circles under my eyes, clothes wrinkled, stomach churning with stress. And Jenna loved it. Every time I stumbled into the office, she'd give me this smug little smirk, like she was savoring my suffering. Melissa wasn't as openly cruel, but she followed Jenna's lead, always just a step behind. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday night. I stayed late at the office, finishing up yet another mountain of tasks they'd conveniently forgotten to do. When I finally left, the streets were nearly empty, the rain soaking me to the skin. I got home, dropped my bag on the floor, and collapsed onto the couch. I cried harder than I had in years. I cried for the friends I thought I had, for the trust that had been shattered, for the exhaustion and humiliation I felt every single day. And then, through the tears, an idea struck me. If my misery gave Jenna so much joy, maybe my happiness could destroy her. The next morning, I put my plan into motion. I woke up early, took a long shower, and really looked at myself in the mirror. For the first time in weeks, I styled my hair, applied a little makeup, and chose my sharpest, most professional outfit. I even spritzed on a touch of perfume. When I walked into the office, I didn't just walk, I glided. A bright, glowing smile stretched across my face. "Good morning, everyone," I chirped cheerfully, like I didn't have a single worry in the world. Jenna and Melissa froze mid-conversation. Their eyes widened slightly, then darted to each other. I spent that entire day radiating joy. I hummed while typing, laughed loudly with clients on the phone, and went out of my way to warmly compliment my coworkers, especially Jenna and Melissa. "Oh, thank you so much for your help, Melissa," I'd say with an exaggerated grin, even when she hadn't done a thing. By the end of the day, they looked unsettled. The following week, they ramped up their attacks. Jenna interrupted me constantly during meetings, trying to provoke me. Instead of snapping, I beamed at her. "Thanks for your input, Jenna. That's such a great perspective." Melissa forgot to send me important files and waited for me to fail. I stayed late, finished everything perfectly, and brought donuts for the entire office the next morning, handing Jenna and Melissa the first two with a sweet smile. Their frustration was delicious. Slowly, their calm facade began to crack. I could see the panic behind Jenna's eyes, the twitch of Melissa's hands as she tried to hide her nerves. nerves. By the end of the month, Melissa snapped. During a meeting with Mr. Patel, she suddenly stood up, voice shaking, and yelled that she was tired of being set up to fail. Everyone in the room stared in stunned silence. Jenna tried to calm her, but her own anger boiled over, and the two of them started arguing in front of the entire team. 2 days later, Melissa quit without notice. Jenna stayed, but she was different, quieter, almost paranoid. She barely spoke to anyone and avoided looking me in the eye. Ironically, Mr. Patel never figured out the truth. He thought Melissa left because she couldn't handle the workload and assumed Jenna was just under pressure. I kept my smile bright and steady, never letting it falter. Then, one Friday afternoon, something unexpected happened. I received an email from one of our biggest clients, praising my work and requesting that I be their exclusive point of contact moving forward. Mr. Patel was so impressed that he called me into his office on the spot and offered me the promotion Jenna had been scheming for all along. When I walked out of that office, my smile wasn't an act anymore. It was real. Jenna was at her desk when she saw me. Her face went pale, and she didn't say a single word. For the next few weeks, I thrived in my new role. Jenna, meanwhile, became a ghost of herself, clearly terrified that her lies were catching up to her. And then, when the moment felt right, I made my final move. I handed in my resignation. Mr. Patel was shocked. "Claire, are you sure? You're doing amazing work." "I am," I said with a genuine smile. "But it's time for a fresh start." Walking out of that building for the last time, I felt lighter than I had in months. I never yelled. I never stooped to their level. I just let my happiness become the quiet revenge they could never fight. And in the end, that was more powerful than any confrontation could have ever been. It's been 3 months since I walked out of that office for the last time. And honestly, my life feels like a different world now. I'm working at a new company where the culture is healthier and people actually respect one another. My new manager, Ava, encourages collaboration instead of competition, and for the first time in a long while, I don't feel like I have to constantly look over my shoulder. But even though I've moved on, the memories of Jenna and Melissa still creep into my mind sometimes, especially on late nights when I'm alone with my thoughts. The way they laughed behind my back, the smirks on their faces when I was at my lowest, those images are hard to erase. I didn't realize just how deeply they had scarred me until last week, when the past came rushing back in the most unexpected way. It started with a notification on my phone, a LinkedIn message. When I opened it, I saw it was from Maya, a former coworker who still works at my old firm. Maya and I weren't particularly close, but she was always kind to me when things got bad, quietly slipping me encouraging words when Jenna and Melissa were at their worst. Her message started with, "Claire, you won't believe what's been happening here since you left." My heart started pounding as I read on. Apparently, after I left the firm, Jenna completely unraveled. At first, Maya said, Jenna acted almost triumphant, strutting around like she had finally won some invisible war. She bragged about how she would take over the role I left behind and become Mr. Patel's go-to person. Melissa was gone by then, so Jenna was completely in control, or so she thought. But the higher she climbed, the more pressure she faced, and without anyone to blame for her mistakes, her true incompetence started to show. Clients became dissatisfied, deadlines were missed, and team morale sank. Instead of taking responsibility, Jenna lashed out. She started making wild accusations during team meetings, claiming that certain coworkers were plotting against her. At one point, she accused Maya herself of intentionally misfiling documents to make her look bad. Maya told me how humiliating it was to be called out like that in front of everyone. It didn't stop there. Jenna began sending Mr. Patel long, rambling emails late at night. Pages and pages of paranoid theories about how the entire office was conspiring to ruin her career. She even demanded that he install cameras in the office to catch the saboteurs. The breaking point came with a particularly important client. Ironically, the same client who had once praised my work so highly. After I left, this client expressed disappointment but gave the firm another chance, hoping Jenna could deliver at the same level. She didn't. Jenna missed key deadlines and ignored the client's concerns. When they finally gave negative feedback, she completely lost it. In a meeting, she accused the client of being part of a conspiracy to damage her reputation. She shouted so loudly that people in nearby offices could hear every word. That was the final straw for Mr. Patel. Maya said he was forced to intervene immediately. By the end of the week, Jenna was escorted out of the building, red-faced and screaming that everyone would regret this betrayal. When I finished reading Maya's message, I just sat there, stunned. I thought I would feel triumphant. After all the pain Jenna caused me, I imagined her downfall would bring me some kind of closure. But instead, I just felt peaceful. It was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I realized that I didn't need Jenna to fail to be happy. I had already won the moment I walked away and chose myself over the toxic mess she had created. Her implosion wasn't my victory. It was simply the natural consequence of who she truly was when there was no one left to take the blame. For a few days, I felt lighter than I had in years. I even told Ava, my new manager, how grateful I was for my fresh start. She smiled and said, "Sometimes the best revenge is just living well." well. But the story didn't end there. A few nights later, I got another message from Maya, this one far more urgent. Claire, it read, you need to know this. After Jenna was fired, she's been talking about you nonstop. She's telling anyone who will listen that you're the reason her life fell apart. She's convinced you turned the client against her, and she's been posting about you on social media, not using your full name, but making it obvious who she's talking about. My chest tightened as I scrolled through the screenshots Maya sent. Jenna's posts were vague but venomous. She wrote about a certain backstabber who pretended to be sweet while destroying her career, and a snake who smiles to your face while plotting behind your back. At first, I tried to shrug it off. Jenna was spiraling, and I had no desire to engage. But then Maya messaged me again. Claire, she's saying she's going to show up at your new company to warn them about you. Panic gripped me. My new job was the one safe place I had, and the thought of Jenna marching in there with her lies made me feel sick. The next morning, I went to Ava's office and explained everything. She listened carefully, her face calm but serious. Thank you for telling me, she said firmly. We'll handle this professionally. Don't worry, Jenna won't be allowed to disrupt our team. True to her word, Ava reached out to building security and gave them Jenna's name and photo. She also reassured me that if Jenna tried to contact anyone at the company, they would be instructed to direct her straight to Ava. For a week, nothing happened. I started to relax, thinking maybe Jenna had burned herself out. Then, on a rainy Wednesday afternoon, Maya sent me a final message. Claire, I just saw Jenna downtown near your building. She looked furious. My heart raced. I spent the rest of the day on edge, jumping every time someone walked past my office door. But Jenna never appeared. Later that evening, as I was leaving work, I spotted a figure standing across the street. Even in the dim light, I knew it was her. She didn't approach me. She just stood there, staring, her face unreadable. I didn't run. I didn't speak. I simply walked to my car with my head held high and drove away. That night, as I sat safely at home, I realized something important. Jenna could rage, accuse, and spiral all she wanted. None of it mattered anymore, because while she was still stuck in the toxic cycle she created, I was free. The next morning, Ava confirmed that Jenna had tried to enter the building, but was stopped by security and escorted away. That was the last anyone saw of her. I don't know where Jenna is now, and honestly, I don't need to know. For the first time in years, I feel at peace. My happiness isn't a weapon anymore. It's just mine. And that, I've learned, is the most powerful ending of all.
Claire, your story is layered with ambition, betrayal, resilience, and quiet triumph, but it also raises a difficult moral question. Were you the AITA or not? First, let's analyze your role. You never lashed out, never schemed, and never played dirty. Instead, you weaponized positivity, which in itself isn't cruelty but strategy. Turning your pain into a performance of happiness wasn't about deception, it was survival. You gave Jenna and Melissa nothing to feed on, and in doing so, you forced them to cannibalize each other's stability. That was cunning, yes, but not malicious. So, in this regard, you were not the AITA. Second, let's scrutinize Jenna and Melissa. Their sabotage went beyond ordinary workplace pettiness. Files didn't vanish by mistake, rumors didn't spread by accident, and whispers in corners weren't innocent. They launched a calculated smear campaign, and they thrived on your decline. That puts them firmly in the AITA category. They didn't just want the promotion, they wanted your collapse. That's malice dressed in ambition. Now, here's where things blur. The moment you decided to radiate joy as quiet revenge, you shifted from purely defensive to subtly offensive. Did you lie? No. Did you harm? Not directly. But you did take satisfaction in watching them crumble under the weight of their own schemes. That enjoyment is where your moral compass tilted. Does that make you the AITA? Maybe a little. Because while you didn't sabotage them, you also didn't try to resolve the situation through open confrontation or reporting their behavior. You let them fall, and part of you relished it. Here's my personal take. You were like a chess player backed into a corner. Every move Jenna and Melissa made was designed to checkmate you. When you flipped the board with joy and poise, you weren't cheating, you were showing that they couldn't win because you refused to play their game. That's not being an AITA, that's being resourceful. Practical suggestions if echoes of this linger. Protect your peace legally. If Jenna resurfaces with threats or smear attempts, document everything. Paranoia can turn dangerous if unchecked. Strengthen new bonds. Ava is a rare manager who values collaboration. Lean into that culture. It's your chance to heal the scars left by toxic leadership. Redefine victory. Winning isn't watching others fall, it's living without caring if they do. The moment you no longer need their downfall to feel free is the moment you've truly won. And now, a bit of humor to lighten this postmortem. Jenna reminds me of a person who insists a treadmill is sabotaging her because she keeps falling off, when in reality, she just refuses to stop sprinting while staring at everyone else. That's not conspiracy, it's clumsiness disguised as paranoia. Final judgment, you are not the AITA. Your actions were defensive, clever, and grounded in self-preservation. At worst, you brushed against the edges of being an AITA when you let quiet revenge fuel your energy, but you never crossed into cruelty. Jenna and Melissa, however, were absolutely the AITAs. Their downfall was the inevitable byproduct of their own behavior. You walked away lighter, freer, and whole, which proves that sometimes the fairest justice isn't orchestrated, it just unfolds when toxicity runs out of places to hide. Before we jump into the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite part in the comments.
ATA for feeling hurt after my best friend turned against me? It all started one rainy evening, the kind of evening that made every little sound in my apartment feel louder than usual. I was scrolling through my phone when a notification popped up from Clara. She had sent a voice message, not a text, and the tone of her voice made my stomach twist instantly. She sounded frustrated, almost accusatory. "I don't know why you even bother anymore," she said. I froze. Just a few days ago, we had talked about how we were going to move forward after everything that happened. The awkwardness, the arguments, the lies, the betrayals. I had hoped we could rebuild a normal friendship, even if it wasn't the same as before. But clearly, that hope was naive. I don't understand. What do you mean?" I replied, my fingers trembling as I typed. Her next message was a torrent. "You're never honest with me. You act like everything's fine, but I know you're holding back. I can feel it. I just don't think I can trust you anymore." I felt my chest tighten. How could she say that? We had been through months of confusion, fights, and misunderstandings, and I had tried so hard to be transparent with her. Yet, here she was, blaming me for feeling the exact same pain she probably felt too. I called her, hoping to resolve it verbally, to at least hear her out. She picked up after the third ring, but her voice was icy, almost mechanical. "You just don't get it, do you?" she asked, a tremor of anger hiding behind her calm tone. "Everything I say, you twist. Everything I feel, you dismiss. I don't know why I even try anymore." Her words were sharp, cutting straight to the parts of me that had always been sensitive. I tried to explain my side, carefully, slowly, but she interrupted me at every turn. "Stop, just stop," she snapped. "I don't want to hear another excuse. I'm done explaining myself to you. I'm done trying to make you understand." I felt a wave of frustration mixed with fear. She had been my closest friend, the person I confided in about everything, and now she was talking to me like a stranger, like I was the problem, like all the pain and confusion in our friendship was entirely my fault. For days, we didn't speak. I tried sending her messages, small ones, thoughtful ones, but she either ignored them or replied with curt, cold responses that made me feel more isolated than ever. Then, out of nowhere, she sent a single line that stopped me cold. "Maybe we should just end this. There's nothing left here for either of us." I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg her not to throw away years of friendship over misunderstandings and anger, but I couldn't. My hands hovered over the keyboard for what felt like hours, and eventually, I typed, "If you really feel that way, I can't stop you. But I need you to know that I never intended to hurt you. Everything I've done out of care for you. I can't fix what's broken if you won't let me." She didn't reply for hours, and when she finally did, her words were a dagger in disguise. "Care? You call this care? Do you even know what care is? All you do is confuse me. All you do is hurt me, whether you mean to or not. I can't keep doing this." I felt tears sting my eyes. I sat on the floor, my back against the wall, trying to make sense of what had just happened. We had started as friends, close friends. We had shared so much dreams, fears, late-night conversations about nothing and everything. And somehow, it had all become tangled, poisoned by misunderstandings, by miscommunications, by unspoken expectations. The next week was unbearable. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped, hoping it was her reaching out to reconcile, dreading it was another dagger waiting to be thrown. One afternoon, she texted me again, this time in a flurry. "I don't even know if you're being honest with me anymore. How can I trust you after everything? After the way you acted when you came over last year? After the things you didn't say when you should have?" I felt my stomach churn. I had thought we had put the past behind us, but she was reopening every old wound. I replied carefully, trying to remain calm. "Clara, I've already apologized for my mistakes. I don't know what more you want from me. I can't change the past. I can only try to move forward." Her next message was a list, each line sharper than the last, each one tearing at my chest. "You pretend to care about me, but you never truly listen. You hide parts of yourself from me. I feel like I don't even know you anymore. Everything you do has some hidden meaning, and I'm tired of guessing. Your work, your art, your life. I can't separate what's real from what's a performance. And I can't stand it." Reading it, I felt my throat tighten. She was accusing me of being someone I wasn't, someone I had never been. And the worst part was that she had convinced herself that this was all my fault. I tried to call her again. This time, she picked up, but her voice was cold, flat, almost cruel. "You just don't get it. You don't understand how much pain you've caused me. I can't do this anymore," she said. I couldn't speak. I was shaking, trying to hold back the sobs that threatened to break free. I never wanted to hurt you, Clara," I whispered. Her laugh was bitter, almost mocking. "Then why do you keep doing it? Every time we talk, every time we interact, it's like you're testing me, pushing me to my limit. I can't keep living like this." I hung up. The line went dead, and I sat there for what felt like hours, trying to process the avalanche of emotions. Anger, hurt, betrayal, confusion, it all swirled inside me, suffocating and relentless. For the next few days, I avoided her messages. When she called, I didn't answer. My friends noticed my mood and asked what was wrong, but I couldn't explain without feeling the weight of her words crushing me again. Then, out of the blue, she sent a final message. "I think this is the end. I can't be your friend anymore. Maybe someday you'll understand why." I stared at it for minutes, the words blurring as tears fell. And in that moment, I realized something. No matter how much I had tried, no matter how much I had cared, no matter how much I had hoped, some friendships weren't meant to survive the storm of misunderstanding. But even now, months later, the ache lingers. Every time I think about Clara, every time I remember the late-night talks, the laughter, the closeness, the betrayals, I feel a mix of grief and anger. I know I did what I could. I know I tried. And yet, a part of me still longs for the friendship we lost, longs for her understanding, her warmth, the person she once was to me. And maybe that's the cruelest part of all, knowing that some people can be the closest to your heart and still leave the deepest scars. The story doesn't end neatly. There's no resolution, no dramatic reconciliation, just the quiet, slow ache of loss, the weight of words said and unsaid, and the lingering question, was I wrong for caring so deeply? Because sometimes caring isn't enough, and sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who hurt you in ways you'll never fully recover from. A month after Clara and I had tentatively agreed to start over, I thought things might finally settle into some semblance of normalcy. I was cautiously optimistic. We had agreed not to go back to the closeness we once had, and I had set boundaries, insisting that our friendship should be measured, careful, and grounded in honesty. For a while, it felt like that was working. Then one afternoon, Clara messaged me out of the blue. She sounded cheerful, excited even. "I'm working on a new art project," she wrote. "Can I show it to you? I'd love your feedback." I hesitated. A part of me remembered the last time I had given her honest critique, which had spiraled into weeks of resentment, arguments, and hurt feelings. But I decided to trust the fragile truce we had and replied, "Sure, I'll take a look." She sent me her work, a series of sketches that were bold and experimental, full of raw energy. I looked at them carefully and typed a measured response. "Clara, these are really interesting. I love the concept, and the lines have a lot of character. I think it could be even stronger if you worked on adding more depth in some areas, maybe refine some of the shading and proportions. Overall, though, it's really impressive." I hit send and waited. Hours passed. I didn't get a response. Hours turned into a day, and still nothing. Then, late that evening, my phone buzzed. A single message from her lit up the screen. "I knew you'd never genuinely support me. You just want to keep me beneath you." My heart dropped. I stared at the words for a long moment, unable to process them. Beneath me? Support me? I had spent hours trying to word my critique kindly, thoughtfully, and somehow that effort had been twisted into this accusation. I immediately called her, my fingers trembling. The call rang and rang and rang. No answer. My chest felt heavy, my stomach tight. I felt panic rising, a familiar anxiety that came from feeling misunderstood, attacked, and isolated. The next day, I opened my social media, hoping for some small sign that things weren't as bad as I feared. But then I saw it, a vague, cryptic status she had posted. "Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who secretly want to see you fail." Mutual friends started messaging me, asking what had happened. I explained calmly, carefully, giving a neutral, factual account. But I could sense their confusion. Some believed me, some didn't know who to side with. The uncertainty gnawed at me. Clara was clearly trying to manipulate perception, to turn people against me without ever saying it outright. 2 days later, Jonah, one of our mutual friends, sent me a screenshot. It was from a private group chat Clara had created. She was venting about me, painting me as controlling, unsupportive, and even cruel. She recounted every minor argument, exaggerating details, twisting my intentions into something sinister. I felt a mixture of rage, betrayal, and exhaustion. I didn't want to confront her directly, not yet. I didn't want another verbal battle that would leave me raw and drained. Instead, I typed a message, calm and deliberate, and sent it quietly. "Clara, I've seen what you've been saying about me. I can't keep doing this. I need space, maybe permanently." Almost immediately, my phone buzzed. Her reply came with a desperation that was almost painful to read. "Please don't do this. I swear I'll change. I can't lose you. I need you. I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't leave me." I didn't respond. My hands shook slightly as I stared at the screen. I wanted to believe her, to reach for the friend I had known for years. But deep down, I I knew that responding would just open the door to another round of manipulation and emotional strain. The next 2 weeks were a blur. I avoided her messages, ignored notifications, and focused on myself. I started walking more, sketching, reading all the things that grounded me. I noticed how much tension had been lifted simply by creating distance. I realized that even small interactions with her had been draining, even when they seemed benign on the surface. Then, one quiet evening, an email appeared in my inbox. From Clara. Subject line, "I'm sorry." I opened it carefully. It was short, barely a paragraph, but it carried a weight I hadn't expected. "I realize now I've been projecting my own insecurities onto you. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you find peace. I read it 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and sat in silence for a long while. No reply came from me. I didn't feel anger exactly. I felt a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and an odd kind of grief. She had finally acknowledged something, even if only briefly. But the friendship we had once cherished, the one that had been the center of my life, was gone. Over the next few months, I focused on myself. Some mutual friends drifted away, caught in the tension between us. Others stayed, slowly becoming a source of stability I hadn't realized I needed. I learned to value my own boundaries, to recognize the signs when a relationship, any relationship, romantic or platonic, was toxic, even if it was wrapped in years of history and shared memories. And yet, even now, months later, when I think of Clara, a pang of sadness hits me. Not for the fights or the lies or the arguments, but for the friendship that could have been. The closeness that once felt effortless now feels like a ghost haunting me, reminding me of what I lost. Sometimes, I wonder if I made the right decision. Could I have done more? Could I have saved it? But then I remember the late nights, the texts, the manipulation, the accusations. I remember the exhaustion, the constant tension, the way I had to guard every word and every gesture. No, I did the only thing I could. I let go. And perhaps that's the cruelest, hardest lesson of all, that sometimes loving someone isn't enough. Sometimes, even when you care, even when you want to fix everything, you have to step back, protect yourself, and accept that some bonds, no matter how deep, cannot survive the weight of broken trust and unresolved pain. The ending isn't tidy. There's no reconciliation, no happy closure. There's just the quiet rebuilding of life without her, the slow healing of a heart that once trusted too deeply. And even as I move forward, I carry the memory of what was and what could have been with me, a bittersweet reminder that not all friendships are meant to last forever.
This account of your unraveling friendship with Clara carries a tremendous emotional weight, and the moral question at the heart of it, were you the AITA or not, isn't simple. I'll give you a clear judgment without dodging. From the start, Clara framed the conflict in absolutes. You twist, you dismiss, you deceive. These declarations weren't invitations to dialogue, they were accusations dressed as conclusions. In that moment, you weren't the AITA. You were someone blindsided by a storm of blame, standing unarmed while she hurled indictments that left little room for repair. As events unfolded, though, a subtle shift occurred. When you continued to respond with calm, reason, and patience even after repeated disregard, you weren't antagonizing her. But your persistence in reaching out, hoping for reconciliation, gave her fresh chances to wound you. That doesn't make you an AITA, but it does mean you misjudged the battlefield. Sometimes clinging to connection, even when noble, prolongs your suffering and hers. Let's examine Clara. Her cryptic posts, group chat storytelling, and public framing of you as manipulative were deliberate acts. She wasn't just venting, she was shaping narratives, rallying sympathy, and protecting her ego. Those are textbook AITA behaviors. A friend doesn't need to weaponize outside audiences to validate their pain. A real friend confronts you directly, privately, and constructively. Now, here's where your own role deserves scrutiny. You weren't malicious, but at times, you allowed your restraint to act as a shield that unintentionally deepened the divide. By carefully curating your words to avoid offense, you sometimes sounded detached, which might have reinforced Clara's belief that you weren't authentic. That misperception, though unfair, added fuel to her spiral. In that sense, you brushed close to being the AITA, not because of cruelty, but because silence and hyper-measured replies can feel just as distancing as hostility. My suggestion, in future relationships, prioritize clarity over endless repair. State your truth boldly, without fear of backlash, then step back. Friendships worth keeping won't collapse under honesty. And when boundaries are crossed repeatedly, cut the rope early instead of holding it until your hands bleed. Now, let's add a sprinkle of humor to keep perspective. Clara accusing you of never listening while simultaneously refusing to let you finish a sentence is like someone screaming, "You never feed me," while shoving your dinner plate off the table. At some point, it stops being tragic and starts being absurd. So here's the unambiguous verdict: you are not the AITA. You were human, flawed, hopeful, and perhaps too patient, but never cruel or dishonest. Clara, on the other hand, weaponized distrust, dramatized disagreements, and projected her insecurities onto you. That is AITA behavior. In the end, caring too much doesn't make you guilty. It makes you vulnerable. accountable. The scars you carry aren't evidence of wrongdoing, they're proof you tried. The fact that you now recognize the need for boundaries shows growth, not fault. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments and let us know which one was your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely want to check out Aita for missing my cousin's wedding. Click here to watch it now.